For hundreds of years, historians and archaeologists have been fascinated and obsessed with the lost island of Atlantis. But what if I told you that within the story of Atlantis lies another empire, equal in splendor and majesty, and although unknown to many, and even largely absent in many ancient texts, this empire existed side by side with Atlantis. Welcome to the unbelievable story of the Rama Empire. Largely absent from the pages of history books, the only evidence of this long-forgotten empire is found in the ancient Indian text. But in reality, this vast empire existed alongside the great cultures of two ancient civilizations, Atlantis and Osiris. While Atlantis is well known from the writings of Plato, ancient Egyptian records, and a mixture of esoteric doctrine and archaeology give us evidence of Osiris, still Rama remains largely unknown and lost in antiquity. So what is known about this unknown empire? According to tradition, the Rama Empire existed and flourished during the same period as Atlantis, and only faded out in the millennium after the destruction of the Atlantean continent. Ancient Indian texts give us graphic details of a series of bloody and horrific events which point to numerous conflicts between Rama and some of its neighbors. Details of these bloody and catastrophic clashes show that opposing sides were likely strangers from Atlantis, or perhaps some relatively unknown third party from the Gobi region of western China. The history of the Rama Empire began when a group known as the Nagas made a journey westward to present-day India from Burma, in what was known as the journey from the motherland to the east. These travelers eventually settled in the Deccan Plateau and built the ancient city of Deccan, which eventually became the capital of the Rama Empire. With the passing of time, they extended their empire all over India. The Rama Empire extended to cities that are in present-day Pakistan. Unstopped, the empire continued to spread its dominion further afield, adding more cities along the way. In the time period when Rama existed and blossomed, its major identifier was its spirituality. All the cities within this great empire were ruled by deeply spiritual men known as the Great Teachers. And because of its deeply spiritual culture, the Rama Empire was ruled by what would pass as a benevolent aristocracy, a ruling class guided by deeply spiritual values and a compassionate consideration for their subjects. These men also possessed incredible godlike mental psychic powers that elevated them beyond mere men. As a result, the empire blossomed and grew in power. But it was at this height of power that Rama faced its defining moment. Atlantis rolled out the war drums for the deeply spiritual empire with one purpose: to bring the empire under its control. To understand the reason for the war to bring Rama back under Atlantis' control, let's go back in time to ancient Lemuria. At the height of that civilization, which predates other civilizations, the populace surrounding the capital became fiercely divided in ideology. On the one hand were those who prized practicality and favored the mundane, and on the other hand were those who prized spirituality. However, the educated elite found themselves in the middle. They were equally balanced with the two qualities. As a result, the consensus was for both factions to split and seek new lands. With this, the group that ruled practicality and the mundane immigrated to the Poseid Island group to form what would eventually be known as Atlantis. The Atlanteans favored a patriarchal civilization based on extreme materialism. They were technologically oriented and pushed the boundaries of every known technology in the ancient world. Meanwhile, the spiritual group ended up in India, forming the Rama Empire. So while their Atlantean brothers were conquering the frontiers of science and technology, they were steeped in the spiritual. And this did not really go down well with the Atlanteans. You see, while history sometimes paints ancient civilizations as savage and backward, that was not always the case. For example, the Atlanteans, who deemed themselves as masters of the world, developed advanced technology for fighting and warfare. And what if I told you they were actually the first to detonate a nuclear weapon? Not so savage, right? Anyway, back to the story. At this point, the Atlanteans felt it was necessary to bring their spiritual brethren under their control. So they mustered and sent a well-equipped army to India to subjugate the Rama Empire and bring it back under Atlantis. Equipped with a formidable force and an impressive array of weapons, the Atlanteans landed on the outskirts of Rama in their flying Galaxy. The Atlanteans arrived with hundreds of thousands, armed to the hilt with advanced military gear. Fully convinced that Rama was theirs for the taking, the Atlanteans sent word to the ruling priest king to surrender or be crushed with superior power. In response to this, the priest king asked for leniency from the Atlantean general, saying, "We of India have no quarrel with you of Atlantis. We ask only that we be permitted to follow our own way of life." The Atlantean general regarded this plea as a sign of weakness, so it seemed clear to him that it was going to be an easy victory, especially since the Rama Empire had inferior firepower and technology. On top of this, the Rama Empire prided itself as a non-aggressive empire and could not match aggression. All of these facts considered, the Atlantean general responded with another message: "We shall not destroy your land with the mighty weapons at our command, provided you pay sufficient tribute and accept the rulership of Atlantis." The priest king responded again. This time, still seeking to avert a war, he said, "We of India do not believe in war and strife, peace being our ideal. Neither would we destroy you or your soldiers who follow orders. However, if you persist in your determination to attack us without cause and merely for the purpose of conquest, you will leave us with no recourse but to destroy you and all of your leaders. Depart and leave us in peace." Ignoring the call for peace, the Atlanteans marched on arrogantly. They did not believe the Indians had the power to stop them. After all, they had the technology and an aggressive army on their side. So to them, the battle was already in the bag. Atlantis geared up for an imminent victory and the ultimate fall of Rama, or so they believed. However, an incredible turn of events showed why, despite appearing docile and weak, the Rama Empire was not a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. As the Atlantean army continued its march toward the city, they moved proudly, believing they would take Rama with little or no resistance. But unknown to them, the priest king of Rama stood from a high viewpoint, watching sadly as the army advanced. Suddenly, the priest king of Rama raised his arms heavenward. Then, with an esoteric mental technique, he caused the general and each officer in order of rank to drop dead in his tracks. The priest king had struck the leaders down with perhaps some sort of heart failure. At this point, the Atlantean army was in disarray and in a state of panic. So faced with the mysterious death of their leaders, the remaining soldiers fled and retreated in terror to Atlantis. However, this was definitely not the end of such confrontations, because the Atlantean army would return with even greater force. While the Atlanteans lost their ranking officials in the first face-off, the besieged Ram didn't lose one man. But of course, one thing was sure: the Atlanteans might have lost this battle, but it didn't mean they wouldn't strike again. The million-dollar question, however, was whether Rama's spirituality would save them the second time around. Not long after, the Atlanteans decided to strike again. This time they returned with the most powerful weapon in their arsenal, a mysterious weapon charged with the power of the universe. Now, while the ancient text didn't call this mysterious weapon a nuclear weapon, the description of its effects fits. Meanwhile, both sides set out in battle array for the ultimate showdown that would turn horribly against Rama and eventually lead to its disappearance, which is described in gory details as a defining war that ended the Rama Empire. It was a single projectile charged with the power of the universe, an incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as 1,000 suns rose in all its splendor. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race. The corpses were so burned as to be unrecognizable. The hair and nails fell out, pottery broke without apparent cause, and the birds turned white. After a few hours, all foodstuffs were infected. To escape from this fire, the soldiers threw themselves in streams to wash themselves and their equipment. And thus was the end of an empire that rivaled Atlantis, but was wiped off the surface of the earth and from the pages of history books. So great was its end that it set the foundation for the flood that eventually buried Atlantis. Thanks for watching again. Like stories like these, make sure you click the subscribe button before it disappears. See you in the next one.